January 18th, 2022. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 249 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting across from me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
All right, so this last Friday, Mike, there was an episode of Undercover Boss that featured the CEO of the Fremont Experience, downtown Las Vegas. Now, for those unfamiliar, Undercover Boss, it's a reality show. The premise is that the head of a company goes undercover, gets a disguise so that nobody will recognize him, and then pretends to be a new employee at the company that he's in charge of. And the way that they do it is they tell the people who are, employees.
They know they're on TV
because there are cameras and everything, obviously.
They make up a story.
They say, it's a documentary that we're doing on, a new employee or whatever. That's how they fool them. And then the idea is that, the head of the company finds out what it's really like, on the lines of, actually getting the work done.
Hopefully finds that things are wrong, that he needs to change.
Right. His or her eyes are open to the reality of, the working person and that kind of thing.
The only thing I don't like about that, Mark, is that they all have some sad story.
Well, they obviously they pick employees
who have had hardships or troubles. It's never once where, I love this job and my life's great. It pays good. I love it.
Sure. So, it's a feel-good show.
Right.
It's manipulative, like you said, in that they find people who maybe have hardships, that kind of thing. And then at the end, when the head of the company is revealed, these people get some kind of benefit in some way, either a bonus or a raise in pay or trips or, something. So
he usually fixes the problem that he encountered with them, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Then he usually gives them some kind of bonus thing, like either a pay raise or, like you said, a vacation or whatever solves their problem.
Yeah.
And then also they usually do something to help the company. Like then he finds out somebody's underpaid. He said, well, we're going to change that. Everyone who works in this position is now going to get paid.
Right.
Blah,
or
blah, blah.
or if there's some process or equipment
they need, things like that. So he improves the company and he helps that person.
Yeah. So that's the idea behind this. It's entertainment. It's a TV show, right? It's supposed to be entertainment.
Well, it's actually fun to see what people do for a living.
Yeah. Oh, well, see,
that's
this was
the part
what
I like about it.
So interesting in this particular one. Okay, so it was the CEO from Fremont Experience, and he went on 3 different training sessions. One was just cleaning up the street.
Yes.
Right? That was the first one.
Which looked excruciating.
Yeah, a lot of it was scraping gum. That was what they were emphasizing.
My wife and I were like, what is it with gum? Why do people feel that they can just throw it on the ground? I've been on Fremont Street. There's trash cans. Just throw your gum in the trash or put it in a napkin, put it in your pocket. Why do people throw it on the ground? It's so...
Okay, is that a rhetorical question? Because I've got a theory. I can tell you what it is. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Idiots. I mean, honestly, I would never, ever throw gum anywhere but in a trash can.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't think I ever have.
And I'll usually even wrap it up first, too.
Yeah, right. And then throw it in the trash. It's
not all sticky and everything.
I, one time, was at a craps table where somebody had stuck gum on the rail underneath where you put your drinks.
Sure. Like a kid in school, right?
Yeah, like a kid in school, just a chunk of gum there. I'm like, so that somebody else can come up and set their drink in it or put their hand in it. What is going on? And that poor woman who had to scrape the gum. Yeah. I mean, she's on her hands and knees scraping off gum.
Yeah.
And took 4 hours a day.
Right.
Of gum scraping.
You know how long Fremont Street is.
I was like,
and then there was also mopping up human fluids, excrement, all sorts of different things.
My kids were asking about that. And I said, well, there's a lot of stuff, and they were going over all the body fluids. Will there be this? And I was like, yeah, maybe.
There's going to be every body fluid you can think of.
In some corner, there's probably that body fluid.
And then the second segment was he was helping clean up the top of the canopy.
Yes.
Now, for me, this was the most interesting, just to see him get up there. And he was a little afraid of heights.
Well, that's high.
Yeah.
And there was one part, I don't know if you caught it, but when they're getting on the lift that takes them up, the guy's like, okay, now, we're going to go pretty high. Be careful. And he gets on, he locks the door, and he said to the CEO, at all times, keep at least 1 or 2 hands holding on to the side.
Oh, uh-huh.
But he said at least one or two.
At least one.
I replayed it like 3 times because I wanted to make sure.
I'll make it 2.
Yeah, I think I'll make it 2.
Yeah, I don't want to go any more than that.
Yeah, 3 hands.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
He
oh,
said
that's funny.
keep at least 1 or 2 hands holding on at all time. So 0's no good, and 3 or 4, yeah, that's okay if you can do it.
And so the CEO at one point asked the guy who was training him, where does most of this trash come from? And the guy said, well, a lot of it's just people throwing stuff out of windows. Because they were saying there was like a full diaper they found once, right?
And he had to go out of his little lift box and climb.
Yeah, it seemed a little, I don't know if treacherous is the right word, because you are hooked in, right?
Yeah.
But it reminded me of like people on Everest kind of going to the edge, like, be careful, and going down and grabbing cans and stuff. So moving towards the end of the show, he decided, the CEO, that he was going to talk to at least one of the hotels about maybe bolting their windows shut so that people aren't throwing stuff out of the window.
Right.
So Jeff on Twitter was speculating, what do you think that was? He was thinking maybe Four Queens. What do you think? I was thinking, Four Queens
Nugget.
was maybe. Are there hotel rooms on that side?
Yeah, I don't know.
Facing there? I'm not sure, but...
We were trying to guess too. It has to be something towards the middle.
Yeah, they didn't say which hotel, but
Right.
I'm thinking, maybe Four Queens, something like that. So.
I mean, I'm surprised they're not bolted anyway. I mean, wouldn't you be afraid about somebody jumping out?
I mean, that's always an issue at a hotel, but sure.
Well, maybe they don't open all the way.
Right. So a person couldn't necessarily climb out, but you could throw something out.
But you could throw
window,
something
right.
out. Some of them open like just a few inches or something.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the case. And then but then again, Mark, why would somebody throw a diaper out onto the top of that? Or a can of Coke or what else was up there? A cup. There was all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So again, is this rhetorical or because I may have a theory?
It's rhetorical.
Yeah. All right. And then the third segment was he was helping to work the zip line, right? Slotzilla and all that. And that seemed to be physically the most grueling job. He had to actually stop, kind of pull back and say, because he had to go fast. They had to get people harnessed up there and put it on there. And it was interesting because at one point, somebody who, just a civilian who was about to go on the ride is watching this CEO, kind of struggle. And he's like, so is this safe?
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Right. That's what I was thinking. If I saw that guy having trouble hooking it all up, I'd be like, I ain't going on. And the girl who trained him, she was fast.
Oh, yeah, she was very fast.
I mean, she was awesome.
Yeah.
And she was lugging around all that heavy equipment and running and stuff. And I'm thinking, no way I could do this.
Yeah, it's
no way.
Just the weight and the speed and everything. Yep. So anyway, those were the 3 things. And then at the end, the first woman who was, cleaning up, he gave her a big bonus and gave her a trip to Hawaii with her husband who has leukemia recently.
She was from Hawaii and
very
had been
appreciative.
Back. Yeah.
And then the middle guy who was working on cleaning the canopy, he had actually had to take a pay cut.
Right.
Even though he'd been with the company for so long.
25 years, I think they said.
So, the CEO restored the pay. And, also, this was kind of about the first woman. I guess there was a cap too on salaries that people, you could get to a point where you couldn't make anymore. He, and did that. And then also gave the crew that cleans the canopy a night at the Golden Knights game. That was kind of sick. And then the third person, she was transgender and obviously had kind of struggled where she was kind of misrepresented gender-wise, even, when she's working the ride, people call him he and And so they got her a nice shirt that said, I think it was Josephine was her name. And it had her preferred pronoun, she and her on on the shirt. And so she seemed very appreciative too. So, again, it's a feel-good show at the end,
Right. And they did get some new equipment.
Yes.
The first lady got a machine that actually cleans the gum off.
Yes. A machine that's battery operated because the problem was
there was no plug-ins anywhere.
Right. And plus a cord is a hazard, right? You have a cord out there. You couldn't, no matter what time of day you did it, right?
Right.
So, and they got new equipment also for the Slotzilla where it was like where they kind of an elevator where they didn't have to lug stuff down
up as much.
Chairs and
I've always wondered about that. That was the thing that I liked the best is I always wondered, well, when they get to the other end, how do they get all the stuff back to the to the start.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
I'm thinking, is it go back on a line or something? And it's no, they carried it.
They carry it down at least to
to
these big
cart.
carts that they
and then they have to
take,
push the cart all the way up Fremont Street to the
So anyway, a very interesting show. I would recommend it to anybody who's curious about behind the scenes.
Right.
I thought it was very interesting.
Right.
You can go to CBS.com if you missed it. They have it on video on demand. If you have Paramount Plus, it's on there too.
Plus,
but yeah, it was an enjoyable show. Definitely enjoyed it. Yeah. All right. We got an email from listener Troy. He said, I hear stories about casinos not wanting a player on the pass and don't pass at the same time. I still can't understand why a casino wouldn't want a player to do that. A lot of time it's called Doey-Don't.
Right.
You pass on and don't pass. Yeah. You have a player who's now made 2 bets, each with about a 1.4% house edge, versus 1 bet at that edge. As a casino, this is great because there's more player exposure on a negative EV game. It's no different than 2 players playing one on the pass and one on the don't. Maybe you can explain what the casinos or maybe some pit bosses are thinking.
Well, I think they don't like Doey-Don'ts because they think people are doing that to get a rating.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And exposing themselves to limited liability. In other words, hopefully whatever's barred on the don't pass, the 2 or the 12, doesn't come up. So they're hoping to, break kind of even. They'll lose a little tiny bit, but they'll get like this rating and use their points for whatever.
That is the rationale, but it's not logically sound because, yes, okay, it might affect the player's variance. So they might not have swings where compared to if they were on just one side or the other.
Right.
But he's right. It's still 1.4% house edge on both. On the long run, yes, of course. Now, if you're talking about, okay, what would the casino prefer, $5 each on the pass and the don't pass or $10 just on the pass? Well, okay, they'd probably prefer the $10 because then, they're going to get a solution one way or the other. But really, if it's a choice between $5 on the pass line or $5 on the pass and the don't pass, as a casino, you should love that.
Yeah,
because you're in it for the long run.
I've always wondered what the person gets out of, how much of a rating could you be getting?
Well, that's the other thing is craps at least is still very subjective.
Right.
So it's probably not worth it to the player because the pit boss is going to see that and decide, oh, well, come on, and give them a really poor rating. Maybe only rate one of the bets.
Right.
People think they've found some kind of loophole or some way to beat the system by doing it. They haven't.
No.
Casinos think that players think they've found kind of loophole. They might even believe it.
Right.
And so that's why they don't go for it.
That's why they don't go for it. Yeah, this casino is as dumb as the players because they believe that they found a loophole, which there isn't really a loophole there.
If you want to play this way, fine. But I will say this, on the electronic craps games, typically, they will not let you bet both.
They won't let you bet both.
So, so whatever. I hope that answers your question. It's one of those things where as a player, you really shouldn't do it, but as a casino, you should let players do it right away. Yeah.
Well, it's just like how every casino, even if they're owned by the same company, have different rules. We talked about this before, how Harrah's Las Vegas and Caesars Palace Las Vegas at the craps tables have a lot of different rules.
Yep.
They're owned by the same company.
Yep. A lot of different payouts, a lot of different rules on what you can do. It's true.
Yeah. Why do they do that? Who knows?
Yeah. Troy called our hotline with a crap story, so we'll hear from him again later in the show. We also got an email from listener John. Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike, this is John from Nebraska. I have a question about a recent trip to Vegas my wife and I took for our honeymoon. We stayed at Luxor. We are both 23 years old, and every place they offered vouchers, you had to be 25. I was just curious why that is. And he goes on to say, we are planning to go back in Vegas in April or May and hope to win some at the craps table. I actually emailed him back to see what vouchers he might be talking about. And he responded, it was just like to some shows they have had there, and I think to the Diablo restaurant. We kind of saw it all around when we went around Vegas. It was some free play offers too. Now, Mike, this is the first I've ever heard of this.
Yeah. Now, why would 25 be a cutoff for a show?
Certainly when you and I were that age, we never saw anything like that.
No.
Now, the only thing that I can figure is in this new reality where casinos are a lot less willing to give stuff away. Anthony Curtis on a recent episode of Gambling with an Edge, and he even said this at Zorkfest, is that casinos are much less willing to give things away because after the pandemic, when they thought they might be worried about getting customers back, as it turned out, they got plenty of, for lack of a better word, high-rolling customers that they had their best year ever. Right. So they're less willing to give stuff away. Maybe their thought is, well, okay, young 20-somethings aren't going to be throwing them out as much money, so we're not going to give them anything back. That's the only thing I can figure, Mike.
That's all I can think of, too. But, well, for Caesars, for instance, they will not give you free play if you're just coming for one night.
Really?
You have to make a 2-night stay in order to get your free play.
Okay.
That's for everybody.
Yeah.
That's for me.
Even for 7-star.
Yeah, even for 7-star. You cannot get your free play unless you stay 2 nights.
All right. Now, this is an unfortunate trend. If anybody out there has also experienced this, under 25, not getting vouchers. You have to be 25 or older to use any kind of free play or vouchers or anything. Let us know. Please let us know.
Vouchers like for a show. Was that for a free show?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was.
Usually when they give a voucher for a free show, it's not a high-end show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like some second-rate comedy show or something that they're just giving people so they can keep them in their casino.
Yeah.
So, why would you...
I don't know.
It's just weird,
again, this is news to us. So please, if anybody knows, let us know.
What they should do is give them the voucher and then make it like a club where you got to buy 3 drinks. And each drink is $10 or something, right?
Big deal. Well, Mike, this last Saturday, I went out to the casino with my wife and son.
Yes.
We ate at the Chinese restaurant there. And
how was that?
Played when you go in,
yes,
you definitely feel like, okay, this is where Chinese people go to eat authentic Chinese food, right? It's not like an Americanized Chinese restaurant. Right. The service was spotty. That's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
The food was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. My brother, I've never eaten there.
Yeah.
And my brother does go there and he likes it. He said the food's good, but he usually gets it to go. He usually
that's the other thing too.
Gets it to go and then just comes back when it's ready.
Yeah. So the food was okay. We probably wouldn't go back. I'll say that. Maybe we are, because we are too American. I don't know.
Well, it was really Chinese though.
Well, and the menu is authentic in that there's a lot of different dishes. There's a lot of it written in Chinese.
Right.
But anyway, that was just our experience.
Right.
So we played there. I didn't play there very long, but I want to tell you about a story that happened out there. Now, there's a regular out there. His name is Tony. It's not his real name. I think you know who I'm talking about. He dresses kind of garishly, throws around a lot of money. You know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he has this bad habit of coming up to a table in the middle of a hand, throwing out money and asking for certain things, bets or whatever. Right. And more than once, there's been some confusion about what he actually wants.
Right.
I remember once, Mike, he came in and he said, "Oh, give me all the even numbers." This is right in the middle of a hand. Ignore the fact that, the etiquette is you don't buy in. The dice could even be out. Right. And he'll throw down this money and he'll say, "I want $110 on the even numbers." It was something like that he did.
Right.
And he threw down $110. Well, at Harrah's, Southern California, you've got to pay the VIG for the buy bets up front, which he did not do.
Right.
He didn't say anything about it. The next roll was a 10. They paid him as a place bet, so $45.
Right.
And he threw a fit. Do you remember that?
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, okay, he plays there a lot. You probably did know he wanted to buy it. But this is such a thing with him.
Right.
Right? And it went on and on. It was a big deal. So here's what happened the other night. He threw down $600. He was over at the other side of the table, so we didn't see exactly what happened. But he threw down $600. I don't know what it is he wanted, but the dealer said change only. He said change only.
Right. Okay.
And cut out $600 in change. And the dice were rolled. And I don't even know what the roll is, but apparently it would have been a winning number for whatever Tony really wanted that $600 for.
Okay.
Right? And so it went back and forth, the dealer and the pit boss talking about it was. So finally, Tony, the $600 stack is in front of him. He shoves the stack. I mean, like pushes it so that it disrupts the entire layout, all the place bets.
Wow.
It's knocking down the chips in front of the dealer.
Right.
It's like, you got to be kidding me. Everybody down at that side of the table is angry.
Furious, of course.
I turned to Anita, who was the dealer on our side, and I said, God, this guy is always such a jerk. They need to kick him out.
Yes. Yeah.
And my son and wife are kind of getting a kick out of it because they're actually experiencing something kind of, outrageous happening at the table. And they're amazed that he wouldn't get kicked out. And I said, it's probably because he's out here all the time and he throws a lot of money out.
He's out there a lot and he throws a lot of money around. Yeah.
So it took a good 20 minutes for them to call up to find out what all the place bets were, because there were so many people, and everybody on the other side of the table were claiming what they had out there.
Right.
It took forever. And, there was no remorse on his part, or he was basically stone-faced the rest of the time because they were having to get through all this to give him also his $600 or whatever.
Right.
And once it was all done, he left the table and went and played roll to win.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring this up.
Well, he's done that. We've seen that several times. And I wondered why they haven't thrown him out.
I know.
I mean, the guy might bring your casino quite a bit of money and he's there a lot, but it's not worth it.
No.
It's not worth it.
No.
Because one day it's going to lead to something worse.
Yes, it's really going to get physical, more physical than just, throwing chips around the table.
Well, one day it's going to be some guy who doesn't know him and is going to say something and there's going to be a fight.
Right.
Somebody gets hurt and sues the casino. I mean, it's just not worth it.
Oh, right? I know. And I felt like going over and saying, why are you such a jerk all the time? But of course, what good's going to come of that, right?
No, we're not going to do that.
So I thought I'd tell you that since I knew you'd know who he is and,
I know
his
exactly
kind of attitude and everything.
Well, it's just weird that they let that happen. I
agree.
I mean,
and
what was his motive for knocking over all the chips?
He was mad because he thought he
should get paid.
He should get paid for a bet that supposedly he made. And you've seen it, Mike. It's so often it's unclear what he wants.
Right.
And then the dice are thrown.
Right.
And then he gets mad, even though really it's his fault.
Right. It might be a ploy on him.
It's possible. It's possible.
Like, let's say it was 7 out. He was like, no, I wanted change. I asked for change.
It definitely could be a move.
And so the dealers automatically, as soon as he throws money down, they should just immediately say, change only.
Yeah, real clear.
Real clear. Change only.
I think with him, they need to always be real.
Even if he says, no, I want, nope, change only until after this roll.
He'll get mad at that. He will.
I know he will,
but you're right.
That's
what they should do.
That should be the rule with everybody. Right?
Yeah.
Not just him.
Well, I mean, sometimes they will take a bet.
Yeah.
You throw $100 down, you say, give me 25 on the pass line. Well, of course.
They're going to take that.
But
But when you're booking like 5 bets,
right.
And you don't even know if you have the right amount of money.
Yeah, and the dice have already been sent.
Yeah, just,
all right.
God.
That's my fun story for the weekend.
Him and the gum chewers.
Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's get to our voicemails. First up is Tony.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Tony from Jamestown, New York, just calling with a long overdue trip report from back in September. I just want to tell you about a great crap session I had at the Cromwell. I got there in the evening after my wife and I had dinner. We pull up to the table, bought in for about $400, and proceeded to have a great session where I used every Mark Duvall craps trick in the book. The table was cold when we got there. The dice were at the other end. So what do? But you go on the don't while the dice are at the other end. The folks at mine kind of looked at me strange, but as they continued to get 7 out after 7 out, they all started doing that. The dice came around to our end. I said, all right, it's time to go on the pass line. So we went on the pass line. The first shooter just off to my right, he made 3 points. So we made a little money there. After he 7'd out, the dice came over to me, and I proceeded to have the best roll that I have ever had. Made the all small tall, was able to get my 6 and 8 pressed up, and just made 3 or 4 points. The really exciting part, though, was as I was rolling that all tall small, we got down to the 9, which also happened to be the point. And the other side of the table was kind of getting a little wild, and the one guy looked me right in the eye and said, "You're going to make this 9 this time." And I said, "I am going to make this 9. And I threw those dice, and wouldn't you know it, I made that 9, and it got the all small tall. Fortunately, I wasn't on it, but I did get a nice tip from one of the guys that was on it from the other end of the table, and that was my first ever shooter tip playing craps. So it was really fun. I actually had the guy next to me because I was talking to him a little bit about kind of all the Mark Duvall stuff I was doing with betting the don't and then doing my come bets with odds and only doing the 6 and 8, not doing anything in the center and tipping the dealers on those lines, his dice got to him and he's like, well, what does your guru, Mark Duvall, say I should do? And I said, just do exactly what I did and you'll make tons of money. So I colored up and left, but it was a great roll and I just had to share it with you guys. So keep doing what you're doing. We love it and take care.
Yeah, what do you think of that? Mark Duvall style. Yeah.
Here's what I think, Tony. Good that you won. Good that it worked. And now Mark is going to tell you how his strategy went this last weekend. He told me the story already, but you explain it,
Yeah, well,
Mark.
I'll tell you. So I was doing that thing. First of all, when the dice were on the other side of the table, I'd bet the don't. When they were on my side of the table, I'd bet, the right way. Yeah. I want to just preface it by saying there's no rhyme or reason to that other than that's just what I enjoy doing these days, okay? Yeah. The other table's no likely to throw cold dice versus any other time, nor my side of the table. But it was going great for me. I mean, it was perfect every time I did. And then a guy on the other table got the dice.
Other side of the table,
and I was on the don't. And it's probably the best roll that I've ever been on when I've been on the don't. By good roll, I mean everybody else was winning, and I was getting slaughtered.
Right.
I'm not too aggressive on the don't. You see how I played.
Yeah.
But
if you were aggressive, you would have been devastated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would have lost way more because he was just making points and repeating numbers. So, yeah, it was the most I've probably lost playing the don't on a single shooter. So, of course it doesn't always work. But
and you end up losing for the night.
And I lost for the night. Yeah, that's the way it went. So
had you just been on the pass?
Oh my God! If I'd been on the pass, just for he probably even for the whole night because I would have won a ton on him. He had that good of a roll. So, but I'm glad it worked for you, Tony.
So it doesn't always work. I didn't want to bust Tony's bubble there.
Yeah, but I'm glad you said that.
I'm glad it worked for him.
Now, one thing Tony was saying was that when they were waiting for the all small tall to hit, all they needed was a 9. And that was the point. And so some people might be thinking, well, wait a minute. I mean,
9's already been rolled.
9's already been rolled. If it was established as a point, how can that be? But they don't start keeping track of the all, tall, small until somebody has actually made the bet.
Right.
And that can happen in the middle of someone's roll when a point has been established. It happened recently when I was out at Southern California. And I was even looking and thinking, well, wait a minute, shouldn't that already be marked? That was the point. And then we remember, nobody bet it until afterwards. Somebody came up to the table. Well, a lot of times
there'll be 2 or 3 people playing. Mm-hmm. They'll have no bets on the all tall, all small, and they've already made a point. Mm-hmm. Person walks up.
Yes.
Buys in and he wants, nobody's bet on it. He can bet on it, but he still has to roll that point.
That's probably the way that it happens the most often is a new player coming up to the table and nobody has made that bet yet. Right. So anyway, congratulations, Tony. All right, next call.
Hey guys, just wanted to give y'all a little update. Went to the local casino for New Year's Eve and hit the craps table up. And when I tell you it was an unbelievable time, the same guy throughout the course of the night had 3 40-minute rolls. Another guy had a 50-minute roll, and he actually rolled into the new year, which was pretty cool, and everyone was hooping and hollering for the new year and for him. I'm a little bit of a low roller, but I ended up getting my first yellow chip, which is 500 for us, and I ended up getting 3 of them, so it was a good time. I hope y'all are doing all right, and happy gambling.
Yeah, good timing. And probably on New Year's Eve, the limits were a little higher.
Right.
So it actually worked in his advantage. Right?
Hey, it's nice to have a big win anytime, but on New Year's Eve, it does seem more special, doesn't it?
It is.
It's like okay, way to start the new year.
This is how your new year is going to be.
It's going to go all year until January 2nd. And then
all right. Next up is Nick. Now, on the previous episode, Nick called in with a call that we had never heard before for a hard 4. And he called back to clarify that call.
Okay.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Nick in Kalamazoo. I have another trip report and a quick correction from the last episode. In the last episode, I incorrectly told you the call that I heard was 2 ducks, no goose, which makes much less sense than what I'm about to say, duck, duck, no goose. A much better call that she gave, and I like it quite a bit. Just a quick update. We ended up going to Wheeling Island Casino on the way back from visiting my parents in West Virginia. It's about 45 minutes from where I grew up. Rarely ever run into someone that I know there, but this time that was different. $5 craps table. They have a new side bet called Hot Shooter. It's kind of a cross between All Tall Small and the repeater. $5 bet. It does reset on the 7, and you have to roll the number listed, so 4 through 10, every possible way for it to count as a unit. So, for instance, for the 4 to count against the Hot Shooter, you have to roll the 1, 3, and the 2, 2. Once you do that, they put a puck over top of it, and now you've completed the 4, the 5, the 2, 3, and the 1, 4. And you have to hit 2 full numbers before it starts to pay out. If I remember correctly, it was 4 to 1 after you hit 2, and then it went up. I sent you an email with some more information from Wizard of Oz in case you want to explain it better. Played it a few times, and it did finally hit where 2 numbers hit, but alas, it was mostly a losing bet. First round of craps, bought in for $300, played for about an hour and a half. Table was fine, up and down, ended up losing my money. And then I never am the person who walks around and goes and does something else and then comes back to craps. So funny that you mentioned that in the last episode. I decided to walk away and go over and check on my wife, and then stopped at the 3-card poker table, which I don't do very often. And actually, the dealer there and I went to high school together. He graduated a year behind me. And we talked for 15 minutes or so. Our parents were in a bowling league together, et cetera, et cetera. Sat down, bought in for $100, was playing the 6-card side bet, and on the second hand, he had 2 10s, I had 2 10s, and I happened to win the hand. So 4 of a kind pays 100 to 1 if I'm not mistaken. So it was a quick $500. Played 5 or 6 more hands, got a straight. The pit boss came over and was joking that there was collusion because we went to high school together, and we were all kind of joking around. And after tipping him $25, up $600 or $700, I decided to go let my wife know and then head back to the craps table. And then ran into an interesting shooter after being there for about 40 minutes or so with the table being up and down. There was an older gentleman who, as soon as the dice touched his hands, they were like fire. And he basically just chucked them down to the end of the table as quickly as possible. They'd, send him the dice, and as soon as he touched them, they were out of his hands. Kind of like I said, they're on fire. I've never seen someone really throw like that. And the guy rolled for quite a while. I mean, I normally play a pass line with 2 times odds and a couple numbers. I take the first couple hits and then I press, but he was starting to do well. I started to fan out. Eventually I had the 4 and 10 bought for $20. And before the 7 came, I had my 6 up to $100 and something. I did skip a few steps to get up there, but in the end, it was a pretty monster roll. And everybody on my side of the table decided it was time to call her up. That was the best roll we've seen all day, and it's probably time to go. I think I cashed out after a $200 buy-in for $800, $900, something like that. So a really good roll. But anyway, I messed up last week, so that's the correction, and then happened to do exactly what you talked about on the show this week, so I found that to be interesting. Thank you again for all the content. Love hearing from you guys, and look forward to talking to you and meeting you soon. See you. Thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks, Nick.
So when did you go to West Virginia?
That is the way that I like to shoot.
That is Mark's strategy.
Throw.
Yeah.
Usually what I'll do, I'll pick them up and throw them, without
one motion,
any hesitation.
Just one motion.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost like when I'm putting my hand down into the table, that's the beginning of my rolling motion.
Right. And you scoop them up and shoot them
it.
down.
Sometimes I screw up and I drop one of the dice, and it's like, one drops in front of me and the other goes into the table. But that's how I try to do it. At least I try to grab them and throw them. Yeah. I just like it.
I
like
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, the dealers really appreciate it. So. Okay, so this side bet that Nick's talking about, it's actually called Hot Roller, not Hot Shooter. In the email that he sent, he got it right, Hot Roller, but he misspoke in the call. So it's Hot Roller. We've talked about it a couple of times on the show before.
Right. I think, did they have that at Verona or Viejas or one of them?
I've never seen it. You and I have never played it before. We've seen layouts of it just on the internet, but we've never.
I thought maybe Verona had it. What do they have?
They've got the sharpshooter.
That's
which
what
is kind of like the fire bet, but you can have repeated points.
Okay, that's what they've got.
This one you have to roll every combination
right.
of the box numbers, and you have to roll every combination of at least 2 of the numbers. So in the example that he gave, if you complete the 4, that means you've rolled 1 3 and 2 2.
And then you got to complete the 5.
Yeah.
And then that's when you start winning.
Right. As soon as you've completed at least 2 numbers, then you start getting paid. Obviously, it's harder to complete like a 6 because you got to roll 1 5 2 4 and 3 3.
So can you repeat the 4 again?
That wouldn't count as a second one.
That
no.
wouldn't count as a
No.
second one.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so just the
they're
4 or
all
5.
unique, yeah. So yeah, it doesn't have to be 4 and 5. It could be 4 and 9. It could be 6 and 10.
Right.
As long as it's 2 or more, then the bet wins.
Right.
And of course, the more you hit,
Well,
the more you get
getting
paid.
all 6 of them would be tough because of 6 and 8. I mean, that means you had to roll a hard 6.
Yep.
And then you'd have to roll the other 2 6s. Then you'd have to roll a hard 8.
Oh yeah, you'd have to roll every
It's
single
6 and 8.
combination of
Yeah,
every number without rolling a 7. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely hard to do. And then duck, duck, no goose. That makes a lot more sense.
makes
Now
a
it's
little
like
more
the
sense.
game duck, duck, goose. Yeah, duck, duck, no goose. Okay. All right, last call.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Bill in upstate New York near Syracuse. I'm a retired dealer, 17 years with Turning Stone Casino, which is located in Verona, New York. And I say Verona because you refer to Verona, California. Well, this is the real Verona, New York, which is right next to the village of Verona Beach on Oneida Lake. Anyway, when I was working there in 94, they had 15 crap games open at night and on the weekends. And we were all new and thought that was normal everywhere you went. Of course, it isn't. And then with the onslaught of Indian and non-Indian casinos opening in New York, they're down to 1 or 2, just like you guys do, $15 minimums and so forth. But it's fun to go to. They have 4 PGA tournament quality golf courses there, and they've had PGA tournaments on them. It's very nice. And they have a giant dome for driving golf balls year-round. It's nice in this time of the year. What's interesting about Turning Stone, they have a relationship with Caesars. Points earned at Turning Stone are good at any of the Caesars properties and vice versa. So if any of your listeners are in the area and have some Caesars points, give them a call, see what you can get with them there. They've got this, I think they're the only one in the country with a $250,000 Let It Ride free tournament. The way you get in it is you get 4 10s or better with your dollar side bet up, and you're in the tournament. It's a big deal. It's a 2-day tournament. People come from all over. A lot of excitement that goes on. I enjoy your podcast, but there's a couple of things I have to mention. That they don't allow at Turning Stone any dealer bets to be parlayed. I don't want to get into reasons why, but you can get in serious trouble as a dealer if you allow it. There's workarounds that, as you know, you can do that. And switching dealers, that always made all the players mad. Not only Turning Stone did, they switched the whole table with a box and everybody else, much to the chagrin of dealers. And one more thing, if I can. Playing blackjack and they pay you a push. You got to understand the dealers, they have families, they got personal problems, they're like everybody else. Think about it. Just tell a dealer you paid a push. They appreciate it and you'll feel better. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the show. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks, Bill. So there's a different perspective. We've always said, when a dealer makes a mistake, we usually don't call attention to it. But here's, a former dealer who's saying, maybe do. It's, it helps the dealer. They're less likely to get in trouble, if the eye in the sky sees it or something like that. I'm glad to get this different perspective, right? From somebody who's actually, been on the other side of the table. No dealer bet parlays. Now, see, this is an example of a casino. What are they thinking?
Yeah, what are they worried about?
Because here's the thing. It actually helps the dealers that they don't allow the parlays.
Right.
But that can't be their reasoning.
No. It sounds, their reasoning is, oh my God, what if he parlayed it to like $500 hard 6 and it hit?
Yeah.
Or something. Well, yeah, chances are he's going to parlay it. It's not going to hit, and you're going to get.
So in the long run, the dealers are going to make more money
by not
parlaying. But again, he didn't say what the reason was, and who knows? We may be missing something. But,
it's probably it's probably a dealer. What do I say all the time? It's like their retirement fund. These rules actually sound bad, but actually favor them. Well, we're helping you out in the long run.
Yeah, that's right. Boy, 15 craps tables when he was working there in 94.
Yeah,
15. I'm trying to think. In our illustrious gambling career, if I've ever seen 15 tables in a casino, can you think
the most is maybe 8.
Yeah, maybe 8. Yeah, something like that's the most.
Right.
So, wow, that's something. And then, of course, now he's saying it's like 1 or 2. So,
yeah. Well, how do you fill up 15 crap tables?
Well, I mean, obviously
maybe
it was happening
on New Year's Eve or big weekends.
And plus, again, this was in 94 when there probably weren't a lot of choices.
Right.
Too. So, that's where
there weren't
everybody
as many
went,
choices.
Right? Yeah.
And finding help probably wasn't a problem either. Now they wouldn't be able to staff 15 craps tables.
Yeah. He's talking about how Turning Stone is in Verona, New York, with a V, Verona, New York. Yeah. There is a Verona, California, up in Northern California. But when we're talking about the casino out here, it's Barona with a B. Barona. So just to clarify that. Mike, the Biloxi trip is still on March 31st, basically that first weekend in April. On the last episode, you said you were 90% to go. Yeah, what do you think now on this episode? Is that still good, 90%?
Yeah, maybe 85. It all depends on work and the conditions of the country.
Well, no, don't count the fact that, maybe there won't be any flights there or, that'll be a trouble. I just want to know what is your commitment.
Oh, I'd love to go.
Okay, but you're still thinking 85% based on your life?
Yeah, based on my life.
You can't say 90 anymore?
I can't say 90.
All right. That's the latest, folks.
Are we going to give a percentage update on every show?
Oh, yeah. I promised Tim Lawson we would do that.
Okay.
I think he's got a wager. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I might have to go, and even if I just sit there the whole time, right?
That's right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. Kurt, Robin from Anytime Gambling, Justin, Nathan, and Brian Dancer. Thank you very much. We also got a donation from Lovelock Electric. Karma donation for an upcoming cruise out of Long Beach, January 17th through the 21st. I was on this ship a couple weeks ago and rolled the All Small Tall. So I'll put you both up for a few bucks while I'm rolling on this trip. Wish me luck. Oh, well, thanks. He's probably on the trip.
Well, the 17th's today.
Yeah, right. So they're probably on the trip already. So good luck. We also got a donation from listener Michael. Karma donation for an upcoming gambling trip for me / cruise for my wife. I love the show. That's the way you look at it.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listing showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonthat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. What do you got first, Dr. Mike?
Well, it's playoff time, Mark.
Yes, NFL playoffs.
Playoff times. Yep. So far, there have been a couple of good games, but a couple of real snoozers.
Yeah, God, really, it's true.
It's been weird.
Yeah.
Next year, I wanted to remember to say this before the playoffs.
Okay.
We'll go over our friend Michael from Wisconsin, his football pool.
Oh, yeah. So Michael James, that we've mentioned on the show many times, and we would play some online poker with him.
Yeah.
He's come up with sort of a fantasy football version for the playoffs. And we're in it, and Tim Lawson, and I think I was looking today, like 90 different entries, so it's quite a thing. It's basically a fantasy football pick.
Yeah, but it's interesting the way he does it, because you can only have one player from each team represented.
Right. So for the Super Bowl, the most players you could have left is two. If you just happen to get the two teams that go to the Super Bowl.
Right. Or you could have one. You could have one team
or none. Yes, exactly.
Or you could have none. And, not every team plays the first week.
Yeah,
There's
that's true,
teams
too.
with buys. So there's a lot of things and a lot of statistics, and I found it very interesting, very challenging.
Okay, all right.
So we'll talk about that next year. It's too late, to even talk about it.
Yeah, really. And by the time, some games have already gone by and everything.
Yeah, you'd have to. But next year, we'll remember to talk about that.
All right.
I think that's a fun pull for people.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I think that's a really fun pull.
Yeah.
And what else? Not much else going on in our lives.
Yeah, not too much, kind of sleepy January here. The Poker Night group was actually talking about having a trip in February, but we've kind of put that off because the Omicron and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's supposedly bad here, but I don't know of anybody. I've had a few patients who've gotten sick.
Really, I'll tell you, this is since the pandemic started, I know more people that have it now than ever before. And it's not because, it's been so long. It's just like within the last few weeks, oh, you have it now? Oh, you have it now? So like they said, more contagious, but nobody's super sick. I don't know anybody in the hospital or anything.
All the patients that I know that have had it are all like, it's like a bad cold.
Yeah,
and
right. That's what we're hearing too.
Days.
Yeah,
but anyway, so who knows where we're headed?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think there's going to be any more shutdowns. The casino, when I was last there, which is a few weeks ago, they said nothing about.
Oh, no. And, when I was there over the weekend, they still don't have a mandatory mask for everybody. It's still the old, if you're not vaccinated. vaccinated, please wear a mask. But they don't. There's no enforcement, obviously. So
people don't wear them.
All right,
properly.
Let's get past this and just say
I'm hoping
that,
it all goes away, and then we get back to our normal daily life routine of thinking about the casino nonstop.
Right, and not thinking about, I can't go this week because I'm not feeling
I don't want to
well.
get sick.
All right, thanks for listening.
Good night.
Mark, that was wonderful. I had no idea you were so talented. The audience is going to love you.